Hey guys, welcome. So, soft pretzels. You can use both like an active dry yeast or like an instant fast rising, fast acting yeast. Okay, if you're using your like instant fast rising, fast acting yeast, whatever it's called on your package, you don't have to do the warm water step. Okay, you can kind of like skip ahead. It's like in a board game, right? You can go ahead and jump ahead to a further step. If you're using this, you will have to proof it. So I'm gonna have my warm water. If you have a like a Pyrex, like a liquid measuring cup that you can fit 1.5 cups in, go ahead and put it in that. In here, I'm gonna put my sugar, so 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then 1 package of yeast. Okay, so I have 2 tablespoons of sugar going in there. Take out any clumps. All right, so we got the sugar in there, and then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna do the active yeast, and I'm gonna put that in there too. All right, and then I just kind of swirl mine around. If you get a spoon, like a spatula, you can just kind of like, you wanna make sure the yeast is wet, but you don't wanna like aggressively stir it, okay? You don't need to do that. And I'm just gonna make sure I get that sugar kind of mixed up a little bit. What are we doing? All right, so we have 1 packet of yeast, that's 2¼ teaspoons of yeast. I have 2 tablespoons of like a white sugar, or you do honey, agave, any kind of sweetener. And then I have 1.5 cups of warm water. We are checking to see if this yeast is alive. All right, and how we do that is we let it sit for about 5 minutes or so, and we look for a change. So you might see some bubbles, you might see it kind of bloom, so it's gonna get kind of like poopier and thicker and bigger, but you're just looking for a change. After 5 minutes, if it just looks the same, then give it another 5 minutes. And if after another 5 minutes, no change at all, then you're just gonna have to call it time of death on that yeast, okay, and start over again. So again, this you're doing the active yeast on that. All right, so I'm setting aside this while we let it rise up from the dead, all right? And then I'm getting a big mixing bowl. I'm gonna put in my flour, 4.5 cups. If you're doing gluten-free, you're also doing 4.5 cups, same amount. So I got 4.5 cups in there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put in my my salt too. All right, 1 tablespoon of salt. I know that seems like a lot of salt, but it's the right amount, trust me. All right, so I'm gonna pour what I think is 1 tablespoon into my hand. I'm using a coarse salt. If you don't have a coarse salt, use a regular salt. Simple, easy, right? All right, checking my measurement and then putting that in. If you are wanting to do get creative, which I love, right? If you want to do like a pizza herbed pretzel, or just add in some garlic, like a garlic pretzel, you could go ahead and add in any herbs and spices to your flour mix now. All right, in our bowl, we got our flour, we got our salt. If you're adding any other herbs and spices, it is all in there. All right, 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Pop that in the microwave for 30 seconds, all right? Not in a metal bowl or in a plastic bowl, it's gonna melt. If you want to use olive oil, use olive oil. Coconut oil, coconut oil. Ready? Think you got the bit there? 2 tablespoons of melted fat. If you want to use bacon fat, melt it, delicious, do it. All right. So we're gonna mix, we're gonna pour that in with our flour, and we're mixing that in. 2 tablespoons of melted butter. All right, so I will use a stand mixer. You don't have to, okay? If you are mixing this by hand, totally fine, all right? I'm gonna just switch camera views right now so you can see kind of what I want your dough to look like. So I have my flour, salt, melted butter, and then I'm going to check my yeast. So my yeast, there's bubbles, and I know the quality is not the best, guys, but there's bubbles in there, all right? And it's kind of thicker, and that's what I'm looking for. When I'm pouring in my water and yeast, one thing I need to make sure you guys do is use a spoon or spatula and get all the sugar that's hiding at the bottom of your bowl, and you get all that yeast in there too, okay? Make sure you don't lose any of that at the bottom. And then you're gonna go ahead and mix that together. If you're using a stand mixer, go ahead and have that dough hook attachment there, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go throw this on my stand mixer real quick to bring it together, and I'll show you what consistency you're looking for. I need mine at around 2, like, and that seems really low, but that's a nice speed. No higher than 4 for using your stand mixer. So let me show you what you want your dough to look like. All right. So first, I like to start with what you don't want your dough to look like. I feel like that's sometimes a little more helpful. So let me switch my camera for you. All right. So this right here would be too goopy of a dough, okay? You want it to be a nice soft ball of dough, okay? So as I always say, if you were to like throw it at the person next to you, it would bounce off them, not stick to them. So if you have this like monster snot dough is what I call it, then you're gonna add in some more flour and mix that in until your dough becomes nice and soft. Now, if yours is too dry, then just go ahead and slowly add a little bit more water until it comes together. Now, this tip I always give, if you're trying to fix sticky dough, if your hands are goopy, your dough will forever feel goopy. So once you've added extra flour, take the time to clean off your hands and wash them. Otherwise, you will be constantly fighting with goop hands, okay? So if it's too goopy, like I showed you, then you'll want to add more flour. If it's too dry and crumbly, just slowly add in some more water, and it doesn't have to be warm or anything like that until your dough comes together. All right, so I'm gonna ungoop my hands really quick. Kneading your dough. You want to knead your dough, guys, until it comes together, like I said, in a nice soft ball. If you're using a stand mixer, probably 5 minutes, honestly, 5 to 7 minutes, you're golden, right? If you're doing it by hand, all right, you might have to do it a little bit longer. Kneading by hand, we're taking this part right here, right? You're going to be pushing out, okay, and folding back in and turning. You're just kind of working that dough. And if it's sticky, you're going to add more flour. You're just stretching and working your dough until you can just feel that change happen. Now this has already been kneaded a bit, so it's nice and soft. All right, so we're kneading our dough. If you want to knead it till you reach the window pane test, that's when you pull off a little bit of dough, and then you stretch it between your fingers. And you should be able to stretch it thin enough without it breaking that you can see through it. Hence, window pane. So that's the one way to test that your dough is nicely kneaded, is you can just really stretch it pretty thin without it breaking. Now, this has to rise for an hour or so. Put this in a bowl to rise. What do I mean by that? I mean finding a medium size kind of bowl like this. I always recommend just putting a little bit of olive oil or taking like the wrapper from the butter or something, greasing it just a little bit so it doesn't stick when you pull it out. And then I put saran wrap on top of it, is how usually I have my dough. And that just makes you know that for sure it's not gonna have a crust on top. So if you don't cover it, your dough is gonna get dry and it's gonna develop like a crust on top, which is gonna prevent it from rising nicely. So I put saran wrap over mine. Otherwise, you can use a dish towel or anything. You just want something not fuzzy. Now, after an hour, so let's say it's been an hour, okay? I have my dough that I made earlier. It's risen, okay? You'll notice that it's not only bigger, but it's just gonna feel softer too. All right, so nice soft dough, like memory foam mattress style dough, all right, guys? That's what we're looking for. You wanna make small pretzels, you're gonna divide it into more pieces, okay? And they're gonna be smaller pieces. If you wanna make massive pretzels, you're gonna do fewer pieces, but they're gonna be larger. If you're gonna do pretzel buns, then you're still dividing it into pieces, okay? But you're going to use a different technique than obviously forming pretzels. If you're going to do pretzel bites, and you're doing all pretzel bites, you don't have to divide it at all, and you're going to roll into one giant rope, and then you got to just like cut it into bites, or you can flatten it out, guys, and stuff it with like put like shredded cheese, and then fold it back up, and then cut it, and then you have like cheese-filled pretzel bites. Really good. Now let's go to the ones that are a little trickier, like the actual pretzels. And they're not actually tricky once you get it. All right, you're gonna roll it into a rope. So let's say I split my dough into 8 pieces, and I'm gonna take each piece, I'm gonna roll into a rope in a pretty thin, pretty long rope, about like 2 feet, okay? All right, so we got a rope. You're gonna make a U, all right? If you have kids, you gotta like cover the alphabet with this. School's done. All right, so you make a U. You're gonna take the right end of the U, and you're gonna cross over to the other side and kind of attach it, all right? Well, look it, we've made the letter P, all right? Then you're gonna take the other side, and you're gonna cross it over to that side. Okay, U, all right? One end, cross over, okay? Make the letter P. Other end, cross over. All right. So, U. Not you and me, just you. All right. Bottom part, boom. Other tail, crosses over. Pretzel. All right. I've in the past had to just look at a picture of a pretzel. And if you look at a picture, like that alone helps. That and just remembering that the bottoms of the U make the top of the pretzel. All right. So we got the boiling water. So I'm gonna switch over, you can see boiling water. I'm adding in baking soda. You're gonna boil your pretzels or your pretzel buns or your pretzel bites for about 30 seconds. I just kind of count to 30 as I'm rolling out the next pretzel and do it like that. So I'm gonna do a quick pretzel bun in there, roll it out. So I would just drop one in there, let it boil for 30 seconds. And then after 30 seconds, let's say it's been 30 seconds, you're gonna pull it out with a slotted spoon, okay? Shake off excess water and put on top of parchment paper. If you're doing pretzel bites, go ahead and do more than one at a time. Like, please don't like do one at a time for pretzel bites. That just sounds horrendous. Okay, so don't do that. Just do a handful at a time. Egg wash. I put egg wash on all of mine. Okay, what is an egg wash? Sounds delightful, right? So you're gonna crack an egg. You're gonna beat it with a fork, and you're gonna add just like a teaspoon, tablespoon of water, just like a little splash of water to it. And then you're gonna use a pastry brush, or if you don't have pastry brush, don't worry about that. Just use like a spoon, or fork, or anything, or your fingers, doesn't matter. You're just putting some egg wash on top of your pretzels. That is what, that's what helps give it that really pretty color, that golden brown color. If you don't have it like an egg wash, or you are allergic to eggs, especially if you're allergic to eggs, don't do an egg wash. It will be just fine, okay? So don't stress about that part. But I'm gonna go ahead and boil a regular pretzel so you guys can see that. So exciting, right? All right, so it was in there, and then I will wash it with some eggs. How I wash all things with an egg. And after you do your egg wash, that's when you could sprinkle on your salt, okay, for cinnamon and sugar. The pretzels are gonna look like wrinkly and kind of gross, right? Like after you've been in a bath for an hour, that's okay, okay? That's how they're supposed to look. Don't be worried about that. All right, so I'm gonna just wash my stuff, I just would put a little egg wash on there, okay? And then I'm gonna put some salt. You don't need special pretzel salt. You can just use any kind of coarse salt. And if you don't have coarse salt, use regular salt, okay? You could use sesame on there. I would bake this, right, I'm gonna check it, like for me, it's about 12 minutes. If you check after about 10 minutes, that's gonna be a good gauge to kind of know what you're at. You can always pull one early and see if you like it when it's that well done versus a little darker bake on it. I do try to go one step beyond golden brown to get that really dark brown, good pretzel look. If they're sticking to your parchment when they first go in the oven, that's okay. Just let them cool a little bit, and then they'll come off. Remember, I will go on my Facebook page and I'm going to like reshare this video. And I just say like, all right, bakers, post your pictures. Probably exactly what I write. And so I post that on my Facebook page. So after you bake yours, guys, like take a picture of it and post it on there so we can all see the amazing thing that you did today, which is to make pretzels. Even if it doesn't work out, just post it. And then we all can enjoy the fact that like mistakes happen. All right. If you have any other questions, you can always post them under this Facebook video on Facebook and on the thread too, and I'll do my best to answer them. I do have to go, and because I hear my children either fighting or playing, but it's one or the two, and I need to make sure that they're still alive and good to go. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.